Hello and welcome. I am happy you joined us. You just entered her Kindle, and today's story is about a mother who always puts her family first. Everything changes, and sometimes the hardest decision leads to the greatest freedom. Let's dive in.
For 40 long years, I put everyone else first. I raised my son, Robert. I kept a beautiful home. I made sure every dinner was hot. I made sure every shirt was perfectly ironed. I attended every school play. I packed every lunchbox. I smiled even when I was completely exhausted. That is what good mothers do. Right. But I never stopped caring for myself. I firmly believe in ageless elegance. A woman does not stop being stylish just because her hair turns silver. My closet is filled with well-tailored linen pants, silk scarves, classic pearl necklaces, soft cashmere sweaters. There are hidden secrets every woman needs to know about looking good. Good posture, a crisp white blouse, a bright, genuine smile, taking care of your skin. Those things cost very little, but they make you feel incredibly alive. They give you quiet confidence. My home reflects that exact same care. Everything has a place. My living room has soft cream cushions. Fresh flowers sit on the coffee table every week. The hardwood floors are spotless. It is my quiet sanctuary. Or it was supposed to be. Robert is my only child. I love him dearly. But lately, Robert and his wife Judy have changed. They treat me less like a mother. They treat me more like a free employee. Babysitting, cooking, running errands, picking the kids up from school. It never ends. Last year, I looked at my bank account. I had a little extra money saved up. I decided it was finally time for me. I walked into a local travel agency downtown. I picked up a thick, glossy brochure. The Bahamas. Just the word sounds like a warm breeze. I opened that brochure every single night at my kitchen table. I looked at the colorful pictures, crystal clear blue water, soft white sand, women my age sitting under large umbrellas. They were sipping cold, fruity drinks. They looked so incredibly relaxed. Peace. Pure peace. I wanted that. I desperately needed that. So, I started saving. Every week I put a little money aside in a special white envelope. I skipped buying new shoes. I stopped eating at restaurants with my friends. I cooked simple meals at home instead. I clipped grocery coupons. I watched that envelope grow thicker and thicker. It took me a whole year of strict discipline. But I did it. I paid for a 2-week luxury trip, 2 entire weeks just for me. I booked a beautiful room, an ocean view, a huge king-sized bed with crisp white sheets, a private balcony where I could drink my morning coffee. I could sit there and listen to the crashing waves. It felt unreal. It felt absolutely wonderful. Yesterday afternoon, I was in my front yard. I was watering my large pink hydrangeas. She spends every single weekend watching her 4 loud grandchildren. She never has a moment for herself. Susan leaned on my white picket fence.
Beverly, you look so happy today. What is your secret?
I turned off the garden hose. I walked over to the wooden fence. Susan, I told her clearly, I am going to the Bahamas on Friday for 2 whole weeks by myself. Susan dropped her jaw. Her eyes went wide with sudden shock.
By yourself? What about Robert? What about his kids? Does Judy know?
I have not told them yet, I admitted, but I am going.
I could never do that. My daughter would be absolutely furious if I just left.
I looked at Susan. I felt a deep pang of sadness for her. Susan, we have raised our children, I said quietly. We did our jobs. It is time to live our own lives. She just shook her head. She turned around and walked slowly back to her quiet house. Her shoulders slumped forward. I watched her go. I knew exactly how she felt, that heavy, endless guilt. The terrible feeling that you are only valuable if you are useful to someone else. Not me. Not anymore. I went back inside my house, I locked the front door, I walked straight to my bedroom, I pulled my new suitcase out from under the large bed. It is a beautiful suitcase, navy blue, hard shell, it glided across the carpet smoothly. I opened it up. I started planning my outfits, a floral maxi dress for fancy dinners, my comfortable leather sandals for walking along the warm beach, a large pair of dark sunglasses to protect my eyes, a beautiful wide-brimmed sun hat. I wanted to look my absolute best. I wanted to feel my absolute best. I placed my blue passport on the wooden nightstand. I checked my printed flight ticket 3 separate times. Departure Friday morning. Destination Nassau, Bahamas. My heart beat much faster, just 4 more days. I walked into my bright kitchen, I made a hot cup of chamomile tea. I sat at the wooden table and opened the travel brochure one last time. I touched the picture of the beautiful ocean with my fingertip. I imagined the warm sun on my bare skin. I imagined reading a good mystery book for hours, nobody yelling for me, nobody demanding quick snacks, nobody asking me to clean up a sticky juice spill. Just me. And the ocean. I had earned this, every single penny, every single mile. I closed the brochure, I finished my warm tea, the house was completely quiet, it felt incredibly calm. But the quiet never lasts long, not with my family. I did not know it yet, but the terrible storm was already coming. Robert and Judy were already making their own selfish plans, plans that involved me, the Beverly who always put her own dreams on hold to solve their expensive problems. They were very, very wrong. Tuesday morning arrived softly. The bright sun warmed my kitchen floor, I wore a crisp white blouse, I felt completely at peace. My navy blue suitcase sat in my bedroom, fully packed, waiting. 3 days until the Bahamas. I poured my second cup of warm coffee, the rich smell filled the quiet air, I walked to the front window to pull back the cream curtains. A large silver SUV pulled into my driveway. It parked crookedly, one tire rested heavily on my green grass. Robert. My chest tightened instantly. He did not call, he never calls anymore, he just expects me to be here, waiting, ready to serve. I opened the front door, Robert walked quickly up the concrete steps, his wife Judy walked right by.
Beverly, surprise visit from the kids.
Yes, Susan, I answered, a surprise. Susan shook her head, she walked slowly back inside her house, she knew exactly what surprise visits meant. Robert pushed past me into the house. He did not hug me, he did not say good morning.
Mom, we need to talk.
His voice was rushed, he sounded like a boss giving an order to a low-level worker. Judy walked in next. She did not take off her shoes, she walked her dirty sneakers right onto my clean hardwood floors. She carried an expensive leather handbag. She always complained to me about being poor, but she always carried designer bags. She walked straight into my living room. She dropped her heavy bag loudly onto my soft cream cushions. It is so hot outside, Judy complained. She walked straight into my kitchen. She opened my refrigerator without asking. She grabbed a bottle of cold water. I watched them take over my peaceful sanctuary in less than 2 minutes.
Sit down, Mom.
He pointed to my own armchair. I did not sit down. I stood tall, I folded my hands politely in front of me. I remembered my good posture. What is going on, Robert? I asked simply. Robert rubbed the back of his neck. He looked over at Judy. Judy took a long drink of my water.
We got an amazing deal. A luxury cabin in the mountains, just the 2 of us. We need a break, Mom. We are incredibly stressed.
I waited. I knew what was coming next. The heavy demand was hanging right in the air.
The trip is this weekend.
He did not look me in the eye.
We leave on Friday mornings.
Friday morning. My flight to Nassau was on Friday morning. I see, I said quietly. Who is watching the children? Judy stepped forward quickly. She looked deeply annoyed.
You are Beverly, obviously.
I looked at my son. He finally looked up at me. He expected me to nod. He expected me to smile. He expected me to cancel my entire life for his weekend cabin trip. Robert, I said carefully, I told you last month I have plans this week. I am going away on Friday. Robert waved his hand in the air. He dismissed my words like they were nothing but
Moms, you need to cancel your trip. We are leaving on Friday.
The room went completely silent. Cancel my trip. He said it so easily, like my 2 weeks in the Bahamas were just a silly little hobby, like his mountain cabin was a royal decree. I felt a hot spark of deep anger in my chest. I thought about my white envelope. I thought about the whole year of saving. I thought about the crystal blue ocean. Judy stepped closer to me. Her face was hard and unsmiling.
Cancel your vacation to babysit. Save us the $1,500 nanny cost. Family comes first, Beverly.
$1,500. That was the exact cost of the local weekend nanny service. They wanted me to give up my dream trip just to save them money they had happily spent on a luxury cabin and designer bags. Family comes first. Judy loved using that exact phrase, but she only used it when she wanted something for free. Family never came first when it was my birthday. Family never came first when I was sick with the terrible flu last winter and no one called to check on me. I looked at Judy's expensive bag sitting on my clean couch. I looked at Robert's impatient face. I felt my spine straighten. I lifted my chin high. I did not yell. I did not cry. Crying is what the old Beverly would do. The new Beverly spoke with absolute clarity. No, I have paid for my trip and I am going. You need to hire the nanny. They froze completely. Robert blinked 3 times. Judy's mouth fell wide open in pure shock. They had never.
What do you mean no? We already booked the cabins.
And I already booked my flight, I answered calmly. My suitcase is packed. Judy's face turned bright red. She pointed her finger right at my face.
You are being incredibly selfish. We work hard all year. We need this break. How can you choose a stupid vacation over your own grandchildren?
I love my grandchildren, I said simply, but I am not your free childcare. You decided to book a trip without asking me first. That is your mistake, not mine. Robert stepped toward me. He tried to look tall and intimidating. His voice dropped low. He tried to use his serious tone, the tone that usually made me apologize instantly.
We cannot afford the $1,500 for the nanny right now. You are retired. You have nothing but free time. You can go on a trip anytime you want.
My time has value, I said quietly. My money has value. My life has value. I walked over to the cream cushions. I picked up Judy's heavy leather bag by the straps. I held it out to her. You need to leave now, I told her softly. I have more packing to do. Judy snatched the bag tightly from my hands.
You will regret this. Robert, let's go. She will change her mind by tomorrow. She always does.
Robert looked at me one last time. He shook his head in deep disappointment. He wanted me to feel guilty. He wanted my stomach to twist into terrible knots. He turned around. He followed his angry wife out the front door. He did not say goodbye. They got into their silver SUV. They backed out of the driveway much too fast. I watched them drive quickly down the street. The old Beverly would have run out the door after them. The old Beverly would have offered to pay for the expensive nanny. The old Beverly would have canceled the Bahamas, unpacked her beautiful dresses, and cried herself to sleep. I stood in the quiet hallway. I walked back to the kitchen. I carefully wiped the small water ring Judy left on my clean counter. I did not feel guilty. I felt incredibly light. Judy was completely wrong. I was not going to change, and absolutely nothing they said was going to stop me. The house was finally quiet. I stood in the hallway for a long time. I listened to the absolute silence around me. Usually my heart would beat terribly fast after an argument like that. Usually my hands would shake uncontrollably. I would run straight to the kitchen phone. I would dial Robert's number immediately. I would beg for his forgiveness. I would promise to do whatever they wanted. Not today. Today my hands were perfectly steady. I walked slowly into my bedroom. My navy blue suitcase lay open on the clean cream carpet. It looked like an escape pod. It looked like absolute freedom. I knelt beside it. I picked up my favorite white linen dress. It is incredibly soft. It is beautifully elegant. I folded it very carefully. I smoothed out every single tiny wrinkle with my bare hands. I placed it gently into the bottom corner of the deep suitcase. Next came the wide-brimmed sun hats. I have a beautiful straw hat with a thick navy blue ribbon. I placed it right in the center. I packed my rolled-up cotton t-shirts tightly around it. That keeps its perfect, elegant shape during travel. I felt a strange, wonderful sense of new power. Every single item I packed was a solid promise to myself. I walked over to my dark wooden jewelry box. I opened the small lid. I picked out a simple gold chain. I picked out my classic pearl earrings. I tucked them safely into a small black velvet pouch. I placed the soft velvet pouch securely into the side pocket. Done. I looked out my bright bedroom window. Susan was out there. My neighbor, Susan, she was dragging a heavy plastic toy wagon across her front yard. One of her young grandchildren was crying loudly on her porch. Susan looked completely, utterly drained of life. She looked up and saw me standing in the window. She stopped walking. Susan gave me a small, tired wave. I waved back slowly. I did not open the window to speak to her. No words were truly necessary between us. Her exhausted, pale face was all the confirmation I ever needed. I was making the absolute right choice for my life. I sat on the soft edge of my bed. I looked down at my neatly packed clothes. My mind started to drift backward in time. I remembered all the terrible times I unpacked my bags for them. I remembered all the hard-earned money I gave away so freely. 5 years ago, I had saved exactly $3,000. I desperately wanted to go on a guided bus tour through Italy. It was my lifelong dream to see the ancient streets of Rome. I had the colorful travel brochures spread out on this exact same bed. Then, Robert called. His car engine had died completely on the highway. He needed a brand new transmission immediately. He cried loudly on the phone. He told me he would lose his good job without a working car. What did I do? I drove straight to the local bank. I withdrew the $3,000 in cash. I handed it to him in a plain white paper envelope. He took it quickly. He mumbled a very fast thank you. 3 weeks later, I went to their house for Sunday dinner. I saw Judy wearing a brand new, incredibly expensive winter coat. Robert was proudly showing off a new video gaming console. They did not mention my canceled Italy trip once. They did not ever offer to pay me back a single dollar. I ate my dinner in absolute silence. Then there was the kitchen remodel incident 3 years ago. I saved for 2 whole years to buy new oak cabinets. My old cabinets were peeling badly. The wooden doors would not shut properly anymore. I finally had the money ready in my bank account, $4,000. Judy called me crying hysterically. She wanted to start a professional home photography business. She needed an expensive camera. She needed bright lighting equipment. She said it was an absolute emergency for their young family's financial future. I gave them the money. I canceled the cabinet order entirely. Judy bought the expensive camera gear. She used it for exactly 1 single month. Then it sat in a dark, dusty closet for 2 whole years. She never started the business. She never took professional photos, and my kitchen cabinets are still peeling to this very day. And the birthdays, my 60th birthday, a major milestone in a woman's life. I paid for a beautiful, expensive dinner at a nice local steakhouse. I invited Robert and Judy 2 weeks in advance. I sat at a large, beautifully decorated table for over an hour, just me and the polite waiter. They never showed up. Robert sent a short text message 2 hours later. He said they were just too tired from watching a movie at home. They were too tired for my 60th birthday dinner. I paid the large restaurant bill anyway. I drove home completely alone. I sat in my dark living room. I cried until my chest literally hurt from the pain. I gave them my precious time. I gave them my hard-earned savings. I gave them my entire heart. And they took it all greedily. They took it and they always demanded more. They expected me to be an endless ATM machine. They expected me to be a reliable, free babysitter whenever they wanted to go out and have fun without their children. They thought I had absolutely no personal feelings left inside me. I looked back down at my deep blue suitcase. The beautiful linen dresses, the bright blue bathing suit, the comfortable leather walking shoes. 3 new paperback mystery books, a bottle of expensive sunscreen. I stood up from the bed. I felt incredibly, wonderfully tall. I grabbed the metal zipper. I pulled the suitcase closed. The heavy zipper made a loud, sharp sound in the quiet room. It sounded exactly like a strong lock clicking into place. It sounded like total freedom. I did not feel guilty anymore. I did not feel sad. I felt angry, yes. But it was a clean, healthy anger. It was the kind of fierce anger that finally protects you from selfish people. I checked the small clock on my wooden nightstand. It was early afternoon. I had a whole day left before my morning flight. I walked into my bright bathroom. I washed my face with warm water. I applied my favorite bright red lipstick. I looked at myself deeply in the mirror. My silver hair looked beautiful. My eyes looked bright and wonderfully alive. Tomorrow morning, I will walk out that front door forever. I will drive to the airport. I will get on a massive airplane. Robert will definitely expect me to answer my ringing phone. Judy will expect me to come knocking on their door to apologize for being selfish. They will wait. They will wait for a very long time. I turned off the bedroom light. I walked out into the empty hallway. The blue suitcase sat safely by the front door. Ready, I was finally ready too. It was 3 in the morning. I opened my eyes. I did not need an alarm clock to wake me up today. My body was completely awake. My mind was completely clear. I pushed off my heavy winter blankets. I stepped onto the cold floor. I walked slowly into my kitchen. I did not turn on the bright overhead lights. I only turned on the small light above the stove. I made coffee. I listened to the slow dripping sound of the coffee machine. It was a very familiar sound, but today it sounded entirely different. It sounded like the beginning of a brand new life. I poured the dark coffee into a white ceramic mug. I drank it standing up in the dim light. I wore my comfortable travel clothes, soft beige linen pants, a light cream sweater, comfortable leather walking shoes. I washed my coffee mug in the sink. I dried it with a clean towel. I put it away perfectly in the cupboard. Ready. I walked to the front door. I grabbed the thick plastic handle of my navy blue suitcase. I picked up my leather purse. I opened my heavy wooden front door. I stepped outside into the cold morning air. I locked the door behind me. That small sound echoed loudly in the dark neighborhood. I rolled my heavy suitcase down the concrete driveway. The small plastic wheels made a loud rumbling noise over the pavement. I paused. A small yellow light flickered next door. Susan was awake. She stood on her front porch. She wore a
Beverly, you are really doing it.
Yes, Susan, I am really doing it.
Good luck, Beverly. Have a wonderful time.
I nodded. I smiled at her in the dark. I truly hoped she would find her own courage one day. I opened the trunk of my car. I lifted the heavy blue suitcase inside. I shut the trunk firmly. I got into the driver's seat and turned the metal key. The car engine hummed. I drove away. I did not look back at my house. I did not look back at my perfectly kept yard. I kept my eyes fixed entirely on the dark road ahead. Driving, I drove past the familiar sleeping houses in my neighborhood and turned onto the long highway leading directly toward the busy city airport. There were very few cars on the road. The tall yellow streetlights passed by quickly overhead. For one brief second, a familiar thought crept into my mind. Robert, he would wake up in a few hours, he would realize I was actually gone, he would panic about the nanny cost. He would be extremely angry. I let the thought go. I gripped the cold leather steering wheel tightly. His anger was not my problem anymore. I was not his emergency fund. I was not his backup plan. The drive took exactly 45 minutes. I saw the glowing airport signs in the distance. Departures, Terminal 2. I pulled into the long-term parking garage. I found a parking spot on the 3rd floor. I turned off the car engine. I stepped out into the damp, cold garage. I pulled my suitcase from the trunk. I walked toward the glass elevator. The elevator took me down to the main terminal bridge. I walked across the moving walkway. The airport was incredibly bright. Fluorescent lights reflected sharply off the shiny white floors. I pushed through the heavy glass spinning doors. The terminal was busy, even at 4 in the morning. People were everywhere. Families pulling large bags, businessmen in dark suits holding black briefcases, couples holding hands tightly. I walked directly to the self-service check-in kiosk. I tapped the glowing blue screen. I typed in my reservation number carefully. The machine whirred quietly. A small white paper boarding pass printed out from the slot. I pulled the ticket out. I held the thin paper in my hands. Nassau, Bahamas, seat 4A. I touched the printed black letters with my thumb. This piece of paper was my absolute proof. I was leaving. I walked over to the baggage drop counter. I handed my blue suitcase to the polite airline worker. He placed a long, sticky white tag around the handle. The suitcase disappeared down the black moving conveyor belt. My hands were completely empty. I walked toward the airport security line. I took off my leather shoes. I placed my purse inside a gray plastic bin. I walked smoothly through the large metal scanner. I gathered my things on the other side. I checked my gold wristwatch. It was 5 in the morning. I walked down the long, carpeted concourse to reach gate B12. I found a quiet black leather chair near the large glass window. I sat down heavily. I looked out the massive window. A giant white airplane sat parked on the concrete tarmac. Men in bright yellow vests were driving small carts around it. The sky behind the airplane was finally turning a soft, beautiful pink color. Morning was coming. I sat there for an hour. I watched the pink sky turn bright orange. I drank a small bottle of cold water. I listened to the gentle voice over the airport speakers announcing different flights. Now boarding flight 842 to Nassau. That was me. I stood up. I walked to the scanning podium. The friendly gate agent scanned my paper ticket. The machine beeped loudly. I walked down the long, narrow jet bridge. It smelled faintly of jet fuel and clean carpets. I stepped onto the plane. "Good morning," the flight attendant said warmly. "Good morning," I replied. I found my seat, seat 4A. A beautiful window seat near the very front of the plane. I sat down on the soft blue cushion. I fastened the heavy metal seatbelt across my lap. I pulled my cell phone out of my purse. It was 6 in the morning now. Judy would be waking up soon. Robert would be expecting me to arrive at their house soon to watch the children. I stared at the black screen of my phone. I pressed the power button on the side. I held it down firmly for 3 long seconds. The screen flashed once. Then it went completely black. Off. I placed the silent phone deep inside my leather purse. The airplane engine started with a loud, powerful rumble. The entire floor vibrated beneath my feet. We pushed back slowly from the gate. We taxied down the long runway. The pilot spoke over the intercom. He told the crew to prepare for immediate takeoff. The engines roared loudly. The plane accelerated extremely fast down the runway. I was pushed back firmly against my seat. We lifted off the ground smoothly. I looked out the small oval window. The buildings below me became smaller and smaller. The roads looked like tiny gray ribbons. The heavy gray clouds parted entirely. We broke through into the bright, clear blue sky. As the plane climbed higher, I felt a massive, heavy weight completely lift off my tired shoulders. 40 years of worry, 40 years of serving others. 40 years of putting myself last. Gone. I closed my eyes. I leaned my head back against the seat. I was finally free. Touchdown, the heavy airplane wheels finally hit the concrete runway, a loud bump, then a smooth, fast roll. I looked out my small oval window. The sky was not gray. It was the absolute brightest blue I had ever seen in my entire life. Nassau, I gathered my leather purse carefully. I walked slowly off the plane. The heat hit my bare skin immediately. It was a thick, wonderful heat. It smelled strongly like salt water. It smelled like sweet tropical flowers. It did not smell like dirty exhaust fumes. It did not smell like cold rain. I stood on the walkway. I took a very deep breath. My lungs expanded completely. I found my heavy navy blue suitcase easily at the crowded baggage claim. I pulled up the shiny metal handle. I walked outside into the bright, blinding sunlight. A tall man in a crisp white shirt waved his hand at me. He stood beside a clean black town car. He loaded my heavy luggage effortlessly into the spacious trunk. He opened the passenger door for me with a wide, friendly smile. Nobody had opened a car door for me in 20 long years. "Welcome to the beautiful Bahamas, ma'am," he said politely. I thanked him warmly. I sank deeply into the soft leather seat. The drive to the resort took exactly 30 minutes. I kept my face turned entirely toward the cool glass window. I watched the tall green palm trees sway gently in the warm wind. The small houses along the road were painted in bright, happy colors, light pink, cheerful yellow. Soft seafoam green, everything looked so incredibly alive. My mind wandered back to my quiet, dull street. I thought about my neighbor, Susan. Right now, Susan was probably making 4 different peanut butter sandwiches for her loud grandchildren. She was probably standing in her small, cramped kitchen with a terribly aching back. She would be looking out her window at my completely empty driveway. I felt a sudden, massive rush of deep gratitude. I was not standing in my kitchen. I was looking at the actual ocean. I was finally free from the heavy chains of constant family duty. The black car pulled up to a massive set of open wooden gates. The luxury resort was absolutely stunning. Wide marble steps led directly up to a grand, open-air lobby. Tall white pillars stood proudly everywhere. A gentle stone fountain bubbled softly right in the center of the large room. I walked slowly to the wooden front desk. The young woman behind the counter handed me a cold, wet cotton towel. It smelled strongly of fresh mint. "We have your ocean view room ready right now, Mrs. Smith," she said brightly. She handed me a smooth plastic key card. A kind bellhop took my blue suitcase. He led me safely to the glass elevator. We went up quickly to the 5th floor. He opened my heavy wooden door. I stepped inside. I actually gasped out loud. The large room was completely perfect. A massive king-sized bed sat squarely in the middle. The clean sheets were pure white. Soft green pillows rested beautifully against the tall wooden headboard. The floor was cool, polished wood. But the absolute best part was the balcony. I walked straight past the bed to the large glass sliding doors. I pushed them open wide. The ocean, it was right there in front of me. The water was incredibly clear. It faded from light turquoise near the white sand to a deep, dark navy blue far out in the distance. The warm wind blew my silver hair gently back from my face. I stood quietly on that balcony for a very long time. No one was asking me to cook a hot dinner. No one was demanding my hard-earned money. No one was treating me like a tired, forgotten servant. I was just Beverly. I turned back inside the cool, quiet room. I unzipped my suitcase. I took out my favorite white linen dress. I took off my heavy travel clothes. I slipped the cool, soft fabric directly over my head. It felt completely weightless against my skin. I put on my comfortable leather sandals. I grabbed my wide-brimmed straw hat. I set it carefully on my head. I looked at myself in the large bathroom mirror. I looked truly beautiful. I looked 10 whole years younger. The stress was already leaving my face. I left my quiet room. I walked down the long, carpeted hallway. I took the glass elevator straight down to the ground level. I stepped off the hard concrete pavement. My sandals touched the soft, warm white sand. It felt exactly like walking on warm, fine sugar. I found a quiet spot under a large green palm tree. A wooden lounge chair sat perfectly in the deep shade. A small wooden table rested neatly beside it. I sat down slowly. I stretched my tired legs out fully. Silence. Well, not complete silence. I heard the rhythmic crashing of the blue waves hitting the shore. I heard the high calls of white seagulls flying overhead. I heard the gentle rustling of the green palm leaves moving quickly in the warm breeze, but it was the good kind of noise. It was the highly peaceful noise of nature. I ordered a tall glass of cold iced tea from a passing waiter. He brought it back very quickly. Water condensation dripped slowly down the sides of the cold glass. I took a long, refreshing sip. It was perfectly sweet. I sat there peacefully for 2 whole hours. I did absolutely nothing. I just watched the blue water move back and forth. I let the bright, warm sun bake the old tension right out of my tired muscles. Then, I reached down. I picked up my leather purse from the warm sand. I opened the metal clasp carefully. I reached my hand deep inside. My fingers brushed against the cold metal edge of my cell phone. It was currently 2 o'clock in the afternoon back home. Robert and Judy were definitely supposed to be leaving for their fancy mountain cabin right now. They had fully expected me to be standing inside their house hours ago. I pulled the black phone out of my purse. I held it gently in my lap. I stared at the dark, silent screen. I really did not want to ruin my beautiful piece, but I knew I had to look. I had to face the massive storm I left behind. I pressed the small power button on the side. I held it down firmly for 3 seconds. The glass screen flashed a bright white light. I waited. 1 second passed. 2 seconds passed. Then the phone started to vibrate violently in my hand. The bright screen lit up with a massive flood of red notifications, missed calls, angry text messages, frantic voicemails. The red numbers kept climbing higher and higher without stopping. 5, 12, 24, 36. Most of them were from Robert. The rest were definitely from Judy. I watched the red numbers multiply rapidly on the glowing screen. They were panicking completely. They were absolutely furious. They had finally realized that their reliable, free babysitter was truly gone. Their perfect weekend plans were completely destroyed by my total absence. I sat completely still. I waited to feel the familiar, crushing weight of terrible guilt. I waited to feel bad for them. I did not feel a single drop of guilt. I looked up from the chaotic, blinking screen. I looked straight out at the massive, calm blue ocean directly in front of me. The stark contrast was absolutely incredible. Their entire world was currently falling apart in loud, angry chaos. My world was completely still, perfectly warm, and flawlessly beautiful. I placed the violently vibrating phone face down on the small wooden table. I picked up my cold glass again. I took another slow, highly satisfying sip of my sweet iced tea. Let them panic. I was on vacation. The bright sun felt incredibly warm on my bare skin. I sat perfectly still under the large green palm tree. The wooden lounge chair supported my tired back. I watched the clear blue ocean. The small waves rolled in very slowly. It was pure rhythm. It was total beautiful peace. My cell phone sat face down on the small wooden table next to me. It started to vibrate violently. The heavy black phone shook against the hard wood. It vibrated so hard it almost fell off the edge. It almost fell right onto the white sand. I looked at my cold glass of iced tea. The small ice cubes melted slowly in the warm tropical air. I took my time. I did not rush. I picked up the vibrating phone. I turned it over carefully in my right hand. The glass screen flashed brightly. Incoming call. Judy. Of course it was Judy. Robert probably did not want to yell at me himself. He always let his wife do the dirty work when they were truly angry. He always hid behind her loud voice. I pressed the green button. I lifted the phone slowly to my ear. Hello, I said calmly. The noise on the other end of the line was absolutely deafening. I had to hold the phone slightly away from my ear. I could hear my young grandson crying very loudly in the background. I heard heavy travel bags dropping onto a hard wooden floor. I heard a loud car horn honking. I heard Robert yelling something panicked from another room. It sounded like total chaos. It sounded exactly like the terrible stress I used to fix for them every single week. Not anymore. I listened to the gentle ocean breeze on my end. A white seagull called out softly right above my head.
Where are you? We are supposed to leave in 2 hours, and you aren't at your house.
Her shrill voice cracked with pure rage. She was standing right in my empty driveway. I could hear cars passing by on my familiar street. I pictured her standing there with her expensive leather bag, staring at my locked front door. I am in the Bahamas, Judy. I told you I was not canceling my trip. Total silence hit the phone for exactly 3 seconds. She actually stopped breathing. She could not process the words. She had driven to my house fully expecting to find me waiting by the front door. She expected me to have a hot meal ready for her children. She expected my suitcase to be unpacked.
You ruined our trip. How could you be so selfish? Get on a plane and come back right now.
I looked out at the beautiful turquoise water. I dug my bare toes deep into the warm white sand. I felt absolutely no guilt. I felt completely grounded in my choice. I let her finish screaming her demands. I waited for her to take a breath. Then I spoke clearly into the phone. My vacation is beautiful. Have fun paying the nanny.
You cannot do this to us. We came to your house. The front door was locked tight. We knocked loudly on the wood for 10 whole minutes. We walked around to the backyard. Your neighbor came outside. She sounded deeply offended. Susan, she walked right up to the wooden fence. Do you know what she told?
I could easily picture the entire scene. My exhausted neighbor, Susan, standing quietly on her green lawn in her gray bathrobe. What did Susan tell you, Judy? I asked calmly.
She laughed. She actually laughed directly at us. Susan said she saw you leave for the airport before the sun even came up. She told us you looked happier than you have looked in 20 years. She told Robert he needs to grow up and hire his own babysitter.
I closed my eyes. Good for Susan, she finally spoke up. Maybe seeing me leave gave her a tiny bit of necessary courage too. I made a mental note to bring Susan a beautiful souvenir. Robert's voice suddenly shouted in the background on Judy's end. I heard loud shuffling sounds. I heard the plastic phone being snatched.
Mom, this is not funny. The luxury cabin is completely non-refundable. We do not have the extra $1,500 for the weekend nanny service. We are going to lose all our money.
I listened to his panic. I did not rush to comfort him. Then you should have asked me before you booked it, I said simply. You made a very bad financial decision, Robert. You assumed my time was free. That is a hard lesson to learn.
Mom, please. The kids are crying. They miss their grandmother. Do you really want them to suffer because you are being stubborn?
I did not flinch at all. I knew my grandchildren were perfectly fine. They were just reacting to their parents' loud, chaotic yelling. The children will be absolutely fine, I told him firmly. You and Judy are the ones crying, not the children.
If you do not come back right now, we will never ask you to babysit again. You will lose your privileges to see them.
I actually laughed out loud. Privileges. He used that exact word, privileges. He thought endless free labor was a special privilege. He truly believed he was giving me a grand prize by letting me exhaust myself for his daily convenience. He thought I was desperate for his scraps of attention. Robert, I said softly, that is exactly what I want. Do not ask me again. I pulled the black phone completely away from my ear. I could hear him still yelling frantically. His tiny, angry voice came through the small black speaker. He was shouting loudly about family loyalty. He was shouting about wasted money. I looked down at the bright screen. I found the bright red button. End call. I pressed it firmly with my thumb. The yelling stopped instantly. The terrible chaos was cut off completely. The thick, beautiful silence returned to my small table. I picked up my cold glass of iced tea again. The cold water condensation dripped gently onto my warm fingers. I took a very long, slow drink. The sweet tea tasted absolutely wonderful. It tasted like total victory. I looked back out at the massive ocean. A small wooden sailboat moved slowly across the distant horizon. A young couple walked by me on the wet sand. They held hands closely and smiled at me. The warm wind rustled the large green palm leaves directly above my head. Everything was perfectly fine. I did not ruin their expensive cabin trip. They ruined their own trip. They expected the entire world to bow down immediately to their selfish demands. They expected me to be a quiet, invisible, unpaid servant forever. I am a 66-year-old woman. I raised my child. I paid my dues to society. I kept a perfect home. I do not owe anyone the rest of my life. My cell phone lit up brightly again on the table. Incoming text message. Judy. I did not even read the angry words on the screen. I reached over slowly. I pressed the small metal power button on the side. I held it down until the glowing screen went totally black. Power off. I dropped the heavy black phone back into my brown leather purse. I pushed it all the way down to the very bottom. I zipped the leather purse closed tightly. I leaned back deeply into the comfortable wooden chair. I closed my tired eyes against the bright, warming sun. The meltdown was officially over. I survived. The bright sun peeked through my white curtains. I woke up very slowly. I did not set a loud alarm clock today. I did not rush quickly out of bed to cook a hot breakfast for anyone else. I just lay there on the soft white sheets. I listened to the gentle ocean outside. It was my second full day in the beautiful Bahamas. I felt completely rested. I wore a soft pink robe. I walked out to my private balcony. I ordered room service for the very first time. A polite young man brought me fresh fruit and hot coffee on a shiny silver tray. Luxury. I sat at the small round table. I ate the sweet yellow pineapple. The warm tropical breeze felt absolutely wonderful on my tired face. Yesterday was full of loud anger. Today was going to be completely different. I promised myself that important fact. But I needed to check my cell phone just once. I needed to make sure my empty house was perfectly safe back home. I walked back inside the cool room. I took the heavy black phone out of my leather purse. I turned the power on. Instantly, several new text messages popped up brightly on the glass screen. One message was from my kind neighbor, Susan. Good morning, Beverly. Robert and Judy finally left your house yesterday afternoon. They looked incredibly angry. A professional nanny arrived in a white car to take the children. Your house is perfectly safe. Enjoy your beautiful trip. I smiled warmly at the glowing screen. Susan was watching out for me. She saw the expensive nanny actually arrive. Robert and Judy had to pay for their own childcare. They finally had to take full responsibility for their own selfish actions. That made me feel incredibly relieved. The phone started vibrating forcefully in my hand. Robert.
You finally answered. I cannot believe you actually left us.
His voice was completely different today. Yesterday he was shouting loudly. Yesterday he was trying to heavily intimidate me. Today he sounded very sad. He sounded exactly like a small, hurt child who did not get his way. He was trying a brand new tactic. The heavy guilt trip. I am on my vacation.
Mom, this is a massive disaster. Our weekend is totally ruined because we are so stressed out about money now.
He wanted me to quickly apologize. He waited for me to offer to send him a massive bank transfer to cover his costs. I stayed.
Mom, Judy is crying. We had to pay the $1,500 and it ruined our budget. How could you abandon your grandkids?
I gripped the phone. Abandon my grandkids. Those cruel words were designed to hurt me deeply. They were perfectly designed to strike my very core as a loving mother and grandmother. The old Beverly would have started crying immediately. The old Beverly would have begged for his quick forgiveness. Not today. I stood up incredibly tall on my beautiful balcony. I looked far out at the vast blue water. I didn't abandon anyone. I set a boundary and you ignored it. I am not your free employee, Robert. He did not expect that strong, confident answer. He fully expected me to crumble into tiny pieces.
Back and help us. We won't let you see the kids for a month.
A threat. He was actually using my innocent grandchildren as a cheap weapon against me. He deeply wanted to punish me. He truly thought denying me visits would break my heart entirely and force me to obey his strict commands. It was cruel, it was incredibly selfish. But it did not work at all. That is your choice, I will be at the beach. I moved the phone completely away from my ear. I pressed the red button. I ended the call instantly. I did not turn the phone off this time. I simply put it on silent mode. I set it face down on the wooden table next to my empty coffee cup. I walked straight to the large bathroom mirror. I put on my bright blue bathing suit. I tied a beautiful white sarong around my waist. I put on my wide-brimmed straw hat. I looked closely at my reflection. I looked incredibly strong. I left my quiet hotel room. I walked down to the warm, sunny beach. The soft white sand felt wonderful between my bare toes. The sun was very high in the bright blue sky. I found an empty wooden chair near the clear water. I sat down slowly. I opened a brand new paperback mystery book. Freedom. I read 3 whole chapters without stopping once. Nobody interrupted me. Nobody asked me to fix a broken toy. Nobody asked me to cook a hot meal. Later in the sunny afternoon, I ordered a fresh green salad for lunch. I ate it very slowly. I tasted every single crisp vegetable. I thought deeply about Robert's cruel threat. 1 month without seeing the children. He thought it was a terrible, painful punishment. But honestly, a month without Robert dropping his loud kids off unannounced. A month without Judy walking her dirty shoes across my clean hardwood floors. A month without them demanding my hard-earned money. It sounded like an absolute beautiful dream. They thought they were punishing me. They were actually giving me exactly what I wanted: space, peace, quiet time for myself. I closed my thick book. I watched a small yellow crab run quickly across the white sand. The warm ocean water rushed up to my feet. It washed away all the deep footprints. It washed away all the old, heavy stress. My family tried to use heavy guilt to control my entire life. They tried to make me feel very small. They tried to make me feel incredibly selfish for simply enjoying the money I saved for a whole year. The heavy guilt trip completely failed. I am a very good mother. I am a very good grandmother. But I am also Beverly Smith. And Beverly Smith deserves a beautiful, peaceful life too. I leaned back completely in my comfortable wooden chair. I closed my eyes against the bright, warm sun. I listened to the gentle waves rolling in. I let the warm tropical breeze blow softly through my silver hair. I was not going back to my old stressful life. Not ever. Time moved completely differently here. 1 week passed, then 2 weeks, then 3 entire weeks. My original return flight date came and went. I did not pack my navy blue suitcase. I simply called the airline on the phone. I paid a small change fee. I pushed my return ticket back by another whole month. It was incredibly easy to do. I woke up every single morning with the bright tropical sun shining directly through my clean white bedroom curtains. I did not feel stiff in my joints. I did not feel heavy with deep sadness. My body felt wonderfully light. I walked along the soft white beach for an hour every morning. I breathed in the fresh, salty ocean air. I let the warm water wash gently over my bare feet. My silver hair grew a little longer. My pale skin took on a healthy, warm glow from the daily sunshine. I looked closely. I stared into the large bathroom mirror one morning. I saw a much younger woman looking back at me, a woman who deeply loved her quiet, peaceful mornings, a woman who belonged exactly here in this beautiful paradise. I was not alone. I met 3 wonderful women sitting by the resort pool. Their names were Alina, Martha, and Rose. They were all in their late 60s, just like me. They were all elegantly dressed in beautiful resort wear. They all shared my exact same deep appreciation for total peace. We sat together by the sparkling blue pool every single afternoon. We drank cold iced tea with fresh lemon slices. We read our thick mystery books in the comfortable shade. We did not talk about demanding children. We did not talk about ungrateful grandchildren making massive messes in our clean homes. We talked about beautiful classic art. We talked about delicious local food. We talked about our own personal dreams for the future. In the warm evenings, we dressed up nicely. I wore my favorite floral maxi dress. I wore my classic pearl necklace. We went out to very nice, quiet restaurants together. We ate fresh, delicious seafood. We drank crisp white wine from tall glass goblets. We laughed loudly under the dark, starry sky. I felt completely, wonderfully alive. I felt truly seen. I was a real, interesting person to them. I was not just a free babysitter. I was Beverly Smith, a woman with good taste and a sharp mind. One quiet Tuesday afternoon, my phone buzzed softly in my leather purse. I pulled it out carefully. I looked at the bright glass screen, a long text message from my neighbor back home. Susan, hello Beverly, it is raining heavily here again. I am watching Robert's 2 children today. Judy called me early this morning. She said they could not afford the expensive nanny this week. They begged me for help. My back hurts terribly from carrying the baby. I am so very tired. I hope you are having a beautiful time. I miss seeing you in your quiet garden. I read her sad words twice. She was trapped. Poor, tired Susan was fully trapped. Robert and Judy did not change their terribly selfish behavior at all. They did not learn a valuable lesson about personal responsibility. They simply found another exhausted older woman to use for free labor. They just changed their victim to someone who could not say no. I felt a sharp pang of deep sympathy for Susan, but honestly, I also felt a massive wave of pure, absolute relief. I had fully escaped that exact same terrible trap. I was never going back to that heavy, dark cage of family guilt. Never. The very next morning, I left the large resort. I walked slowly into the small, colorful local town. The narrow streets were paved with old, beautiful stones. Small local shops sold bright watercolor paintings and soft linen clothing. The warm breeze smelled like sweet flowers and fresh baked bread. I walked slowly past a local real estate office. I stopped walking. I stood perfectly still on the warm concrete sidewalk. Large glass windows displayed dozens of colorful paper flyers, small, beautiful beach houses, comfortable oceanfront apartments. Quiet luxury villas surrounded by tall green palm trees. I looked very closely at one specific paper flyer. It showed a small 2-bedroom house. It had a wide white wooden porch. It had a perfectly clear view of the bright turquoise water. I read the printed numbers at the bottom. The monthly rent was very reasonable. In fact, it cost exactly the same amount as my normal monthly bills back in my cold, empty house. My heart started to beat very fast in my chest. Why did I actually have to leave? Who was forcing me to get on a loud airplane and go back to the freezing rain? Robert did not want my company. He only wanted my free labor. Judy did not respect my time. She only respected my open wallet. My beautiful home back there felt completely empty in my mind now. The real warmth was right here. The real happiness was right here on this small island. I reached out my hand. I pushed open the heavy glass door of the real estate office. A cool, refreshing breeze of air conditioning hit my warm face. A polite young woman sitting behind a clean wooden desk smiled brightly at me. "Good morning, ma'am," she said warmly. "How can I help you today?" I stood tall. I smoothed my beautiful linen skirt with my hands. I did not hesitate for a single second. "Good morning," I answered clearly. "I am looking at the small beach house with the white porch. I want to sign a lease. I am staying here permanently." Few days later, I signed the local lease paper quickly and packed into the house. This was my brand new life. My days belong entirely to me now. I wake up exactly when I want to. I read my thick mystery books for hours. I walk along the soft white sand with my 3 new friends. We laugh very loudly. We share wonderful stories. Back in my old city, things were falling completely apart. I knew this strict fact.
Beverly, you will be so very proud of me today. Judy knocked on my front door again. She begged me to watch her loud children for free. She said the professional nanny was draining their entire bank account rapidly.
I held the phone closely. I waited quietly to hear her next words.
I said no. I actually looked Judy right in her eyes and said no. I told her I am going to a local pottery class instead. I shut my heavy wooden door right in her shocked face. Beverly, I feel absolutely amazing.
I laughed out loud. I praised Susan heavily. She finally found her own brave voice. She finally protected her own precious time. My bold escape gave her the solid courage to escape her own heavy cage. Susan is finally living for herself. That phone call made me feel completely at peace. But the absolute final test arrived early this morning. My cell phone sat quietly on the small wooden porch table. It started to vibrate. The screen lit up brightly. "Robert." I watched the screen blink for a few long seconds. I did not feel any fear. I did not feel any twisting guilt in my tired stomach. I just felt completely done with his childish games.
Moms, we are really sorry. We shouldn't have yelled at you. When are you coming home?
His voice sounded incredibly small. He was completely exhausted. Paying the expensive nanny for 6 whole weeks had finally broken his stubborn pride. He desperately wanted his free, reliable servant back. He expected me to cry happily. He expected me to jump on the very next airplane to rescue him. I looked out at the bright turquoise water. I took a slow, deep breath of the fresh, salty air. "I accept your apology, Robert, but I am not coming back to be your babysitter. I signed a 6-month lease on a beach house." The silence on the phone was extremely heavy. Then I heard a very loud, shocked gasp in the background. 6 months. I did not raise my voice at all. I did not sound angry. I sounded perfectly polite. "Yes, you wanted to save $1,500, but it cost you your free nanny forever. Goodbye." I moved the phone away from my face and ended the call. It was finally done. I did not block his phone number. I did not turn my cell phone off. I just set it back down on the wooden table. I did not care if they called back. I did not care if they yelled. Their loud anger could not reach me across the massive ocean. They have to solve their own problems now. I picked up my hot coffee cup. I took a long, slow sip. I am 66 years old. My hair is silver, my skin has soft wrinkles, but my spirit is completely brand new. I spent 40 years living entirely for other people. I gave away my hard-earned money. I gave away my precious time. I gave away my own happiness to keep the peace. Never again. I stood up from my comfortable porch chair. I walked down the short wooden steps. My bare feet touched the warm, soft white sand. The bright sun felt absolutely beautiful. The ocean water looked perfect. I am Beverly Smith. And I am finally living my own beautiful life. If you are listening to this story today, I want you to remember something very important. Your time is highly valuable. Your peace is deeply precious. You are never too old to set a firm boundary. You are never too old to pack a suitcase and choose yourself. Do not let anyone treat you like a free employee. You deserve respect. You deserve joy. If this story helped you find your own courage today, please do me a small favor. Look right below this video. Click that subscribe. Stories about women finally taking their power back. Subscribe to the channel today. You truly deserve to hear them all.